Cabbage hit .209 last year for the Astros. He hit .208 previous year for the Dodgers. You'll never guess what he's going to hit for this club. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. No, I'm not going to talk about Ben Cherington's waiver claim. Just thought I'd use that as a really sexy lure to bring you in to this particular episode. Ooh, let's find out more about Trey Cabbage. It's not that, though. It's not about him. It really isn't. What it's about, instead, is actually, for the first time in a while, I'm going to talk about, like semi-pseudo actual baseball stuff. Because this team, regardless of who was running it right now, needs certain players at certain positions, certain caliber of players at certain positions. And as of the wee hours of this very morning, they've not lifted so much as a pinky finger to address any of those. Now, that's not a crime. It's not even uncommon. So when you sign the 115 hitting guy, and I'm sorry, I've legitimately forgotten his name, out of free agency, and then you add Trey Cabbage, he of the 208 career average, at age 27, I should add, then what that tells you, and boy, is this not going to be a surprise, is that they're not going to do anything any differently. The process is the process. The approach is the approach, and the approach always puts process above all else. Think of it this way. Let's say that the Pirates recognize that they haven't had a first baseman in forever, or that they haven't had a right fielder in forever, and they most certainly have not had one of either in the entirety of Ben Cherington's tenure. He traded Josh Bell almost right away, and he played out the fading remnants of a damaged Gregory Polanco, and ever since then, there's been nobody. Not at first, not in right. Now, I can casually bring up all kinds of other positions, but for the purpose of this exercise, let's limit it to first and right. Considering that Cherington just stood in front of reporters less than a month ago and openly stated that he and Derek Shelton are essentially tethered together in accountability heading into 2025, one would think that there might be some sort of unusual act, something different, something that sends a message, not that that's why you do it, but that sends a message that, hey, no, really, this time we mean it. This time we're going to be serious. And maybe that galvanizes some people on the inside. It might even have an effect on the outside. Doesn't matter to these guys. Doesn't matter to Cherington. What does matter is to show that the way he's been doing this all along has been right, and the way that the rest of us have wanted it, or the way the rest of us have expected this nutty thing called results, is wrong. So if he were, for example, to just go and sign out of free agency some, pretty good right fielder. Doesn't need to be a superstar. It doesn't need to be someone at a Juan Soto level or whatever. But you go and you get yourself a real live ball player. Not a project, not a prove-it guy, not someone who, if he happens to succeed, makes you look especially smart. Just a player who happens to be worth the money that you're paying. I've cited this individual a couple of times, and I'm going to do it again, even though he didn't necessarily have the greatest season, and that's Ree Hoskins in Milwaukee. The Brewers had a need at first base. They cut ties with Rowdy Tellez, and they ponied up 3 years and $39 million for Hoskins. He was hurt for a good portion of the season. He was productive at times. He wasn't as productive at times. But it was, for all intents and purposes, mission accomplished. They got themselves a big league first baseman. They got their guy. They filled the need. Not for show, not to send a message, but to make the baseball team better. Gasp. And in the process, giggled as they watched the Pirates rummaging through their trash to pick up and overpay Tellez. That won't happen here. That can't happen here. Because the objectives of the GM, and you're gonna have to take my word for this, this part has nothing to do with the owner. It just doesn't. This GM is out to prove that he's got himself a way with running an organization. And as soon as he goes and brings in some big-name, high-priced free agent, then he's tacitly confessing to everybody, I probably should have done this 2 or 3 years ago. And he can't do that. So what he does is he goes out and gets the 115 dude. He gets Trey Cabbage. And he's going to keep getting a bunch more guys like that, even though what would help to save his own job, just in the name of self-preservation, would be to go get somebody who could play first base or right field. Now, I can hear you. Yeah, it's because Nutting won't let him spend it. You're not going to be able to use that one this winter. That payroll is going up to $100 million, and that money isn't just going to be reflected in the increase, meaning the size of the payroll year over year. It's going to be in other guys who leave, guys who don't get brought back. For example, if Aroldis Chapman doesn't come back, that's 10.5 right back on the table. He can, for the most part, right now, Cherington, go out and get himself the first baseman or the right fielder that he would want. He's not doing that. And only because he has not done that previously, and therefore it's not part of his process, which he desperately needs to prove to you was absolutely, undeniably right. When we come back, J1Q.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragechek.org. That's gunstoragechek.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from Dawn, who asks, DK Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, Jared Jones, and Bubba Chandler pitching, that looks good. The question, as I see it heading into 2025, is who's going to hit the ball, and more important, will anyone be allowed to hit the ball, or is taking strike 3 called still part of the process? Dawn trying to win my heart over by using the term process there. Much respect, my man. The hitting coach for the Pittsburgh Pirates in 2025, regardless of who it is or which multiple whos it is, since Cherington's already hinted that it's going to be one of those hitting teams, since the Pirates can't come up with any original ideas and other teams are now starting to do that, meaning there will be a bunch of hitting coaches, one of them in charge, but it'll be spread around. And that way, by the way, nobody can get blamed for it, except by me, because I'll continue to blame it on the GM. Why? Because it's his hitting philosophy. And he himself responded when our reporter, Jose Negron, asked him at that same press conference, would you consider adapting your hitting philosophy given how things have went? He wanted nothing to do with it. So he'll find himself not just someone, but multiple someones that he can put in that role, obfuscated as much as possible so that we don't have a convenient Andy Haynes-like target to point to. And yet again, his principal objective in this is to be right, is to show that he's right. It's not to win. It's not to win games. It's not to say, man, I'm looking around and I'm seeing it, that we're looking at more called strikes than anybody and we're swinging and missing, or we're just not even bothering to swing more than anybody else. And, this doesn't seem to be working out for us because we also don't have guys who can hit home runs, and we don't activate our runners on the base paths. And just about the only thing that we occasionally achieve through this method is to wear down the other team's starting pitcher. So I, being the responsible steward of baseball operations, I am going to bite the bullet here and tell everybody that it wasn't working out, and I'm going to try something different here. No, none of that's going to happen. It's not going to come close to happening. You're going to get someone whose name rhymes with Andy Haynes, like Randy Baines will come in to become the hitting coach, and he might even be wearing a mysterious mustache that we're not sure exactly who it is. And they'll come along and say, gee, Ben, what kind of hitting philosophy do you have? Because I'd sure like to have a job in this industry. And Ben will tell that guy, and the other guy will say, that's funny. That's exactly the way I feel about this. I hate when hitters hit. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. No idea why you do it. I'm going to come back with another one tomorrow nonetheless.